get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down.
Welcome aboard, Kneecaps Nation, and a happy Mother's Day to all of you that apply and celebrate. You're locked and loaded for another episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Vince Brogar, that's me. Happy to be joined, as always, by the man, the myth, the legend, Phil Byrne. And Phil, you're really doing a number on the wardrobe thing compared to me. I'm rocking the mini Golden Doodle colored shirt, and you're rocking the short sleeve button up with the Patagonia vest. You're ready for action today.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's Mother's Day. You know, it's time to get out there and go have a quality meal, whether that's at your mom's place, your place, maybe a place of favorite restaurant kind of thing. Brunch is super popular. Great day to get out and about. We had some wonderful weather here too over the weekend here in the Metro Detroit area. So if you are joining us here locally, hopefully you got out to celebrate your mom. Be thankful that if she is still around, have that opportunity and get outside a little bit too in the process. Wonderful weather we have.
No doubt about it. And it's just yet another hint that spring is on its way. And another big indicator that spring is on its way is the presence of allergens. So that kind of hit me a little bit a couple of weeks ago. And I know you said you were sneezing a little bit over this weekend. So if you happen to catch a sneeze while Phil and I are talking, don't get too turned off about it.
Wait, no, don't do a shot. No, we're not doing a drinking game for this podcast, but you get the idea.
Not this one at least. Maybe if it's a repeat of the Buffalo game from last season where like half the team got hurt and the team got drilled and all this. That's a different story, but not during the off season. So that's one indication that spring's coming aside from Mother's Day. But the other indication that spring is coming is the fact that the schedule is very, very close to being revealed. In fact, we're just a few days away. This coming Wednesday in prime time, the NFL schedule will be released. So we already know who the Lions are going to be playing, but the ever-important situation to digest is when the Lions are going to play these games and what time these games are going to kick off. And, of course, there's lots of implications to that because we know that the Lions are now all of a sudden a popular choice for some national TV games. So we'll get to find out if the Lions will be Monday night heavy or Thursday night heavy or something in between because that all plays into how it all comes together as well. So those questions will be answered in just a few days. But, Phil, we do want to recap who the opponents for the Lions are before we get any further down the road here. So we, of course, know that the home opponents and away opponents are all going to consist of the Bears, Packers, and Vikings. The rest of the home opponents will include the Cowboys, the Giants, the Buccaneers, the Browns, and the Steelers. The remaining road opponents will be the Eagles, the Commanders, the Rams, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
So we gave our initial thoughts to that way, way, way back when the regular season ended and it was made obvious who the 2025 opponents were going to be. But, Phil, second impressions, I'm going to say, about who is laying in front of us here just a few months down the road?
I think just having to play obviously the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bengals, like all those road games that are just non-conference. I know the Ravens, Bengals, and Chiefs are getting a lot of attention because it's not too often that even though we played in Baltimore a couple years back, got it handed to us. But we typically don't play a lot of those teams on the road that often, at least during the regular season. I know the Bengals kind of fluctuated in between being a preseason opponent that we play fairly off and on. But for me, I think we got to look at the NFC East opponents. I know the Rams are out there as well. A lot of people think that they, could possibly be the favorite in the NFC West. But let's not kid ourselves. Going on the road to Philadelphia and then going on the road to that rejuvenated Commanders team with Jaden Daniels, and they continue to add pieces in the offseason. Those are really the two key games that I want to see where those are going to land on the schedule. Um, I think anytime you've got the Rams, and especially with it being in LA, that could be a prime time game, because we've played so many games against them to this point. So those are really the thing that I want to see. Don't get me wrong, as a season ticket holder, I want to see where these games are going to show for the home games. To me, it is all about the road games, and hopefully, we have a pretty solid balance of when we get these games going. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, though, Vince. Like, this is a team that the NFL networks love to get in prime time. Um, it wouldn't shock me. I'll just be right now. We know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have a home game on Christmas. I think, again, what better way to significant to really like take that Netflix deal with them a step further than having Lions and Chiefs, Christmas Day or something like that. So that could be something to look out for. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. To me, though, the two games that I want to see where those are going to be on the schedule are going to be the at Eagles and at Commanders games.
As I look at the teams that are going to be on the schedule, it's very, very split, more so than I can remember it in a long time. I'm looking at the 8 games that the Lions are going to be playing at home. And my first thought here is, where's the losses? You could argue there's a very real shot that they go 8-0 at home this year. We know that the Lions are very, very stout at home over the recent years, notwithstanding the fact that they lost every one of their games a season ago at Ford Field and went undefeated on the road a year ago. But I'm just looking at who they have, just boom, 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 boom down the list. Not sure who they're losing to necessarily at Ford Field. Conversely, I look at the road teams, boom, 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 in a list. I'm thinking, who they beaten? You could argue that they could go winless on the road this year and win every game at home. That's how split the Lions' opponents are for this season, the likes of which I can't say I've seen in a long time.
And that's what's so crazy about this, too. We think we have a good idea of how the teams are going to play. You never truly know, right? I mean, the way that we see this away schedule, we're like, oh, man, the Rams, Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles, Commanders. We think talent and what they did last year, they should be front and center as contenders, but something crazy always happens. One of those teams is not going to be as good, or at least shouldn't be, as we think they are. And then we look at the home games and we go, okay, Cowboys, Giants. Oh, the Bucks made the playoffs. They won their division. Browns, the Steelers. One of those teams are probably going to be better. Maybe not the Bucks, but maybe one of the other teams could probably be better than, as we sit here right now. So it's all conjecture, truly, until the games get played. But it is going to make, when we get the news Wednesday about where these opponents are stacking up, and specifically where those road games are going to go, that's going to give us the clearer picture about maybe where we think win-loss total and where we think this Lions team can go.
So a few years ago, I was down with the flu for a few days and had a lot of time on my hands. I was laying there in bed trying to get better. And the one thing that I tried to do was to come up with my own little algorithm to try and predict the outcomes of the following year's NFL schedule. And needless to say, I got nowhere fast because there is so much that goes into creating a schedule. Like, it even goes down to, like, if there are concerts or other professional sporting events going on at nearby neighboring venues of these NFL teams, that all goes into consideration. You're talking, there are caps to the number of primetime games that each team can get. So that all kind of goes into consideration. Of course, you have to stay within the parameters of who the teams are, and it just mixes and matches accordingly. So needless to say, I really didn't get anywhere aside from maybe week 1, and it's like, okay, now what? That being said, Phil, we have a picture in our mind of, in a perfect world, how the schedule would look. So,
Yeah.
Phil, looking at the teams that are in front of us, what general layout of a schedule do you think would need to exist for the Lions to have the best shot at success?
So we know a couple things. Um, the Lions are going to have that additional preseason game. So we're going to have this team hit training camp a little bit earlier. We know Aiden Hutchinson should be good to go, barring any kind of setback. And I think we also know that Aleem McNeil is coming back in November. I think we need to have some of these road games towards the end of the season. And I know that goes against kind of popular idea that you want to have a lot of home games towards the rest, like the end of the schedule there. But I think if we are full strength and we still have that kind of chip on our shoulder mentality that Dan Campbell's been able to bring to this team, I think it would be more beneficial to have this schedule um, with some of these teams on the road. I mean, you can't get all of them because all these games on the road look good. But I think when we're talking about going on the road to Philadelphia, going on the road to Kansas City, I think we might be a little bit better later on in the season. Once we get Aleem McNeil back, once we maybe have that defensive line a little bit more figured out, maybe we get some additions from Isaac Tesla or something like that. As another receiver in this passing game. So that's the way that I look at it because, and I know we hate to look down on teams because we were the team that was often looked down for so long, but the Steelers still don't have a quarterback. The Browns have too many quarterbacks. The Cowboys and Giants, like, all right, they made some moves that are probably pretty good. I feel like George Pickens can destroy that Cowboys team, that they just added a couple weeks ago, So um, I don't know. I would rather play a couple of those teams early on, get this team that momentum of having a good start to the season because I think we were a little rocky to start last year. And then let's go play those juggernauts on the road once we get Lee McNeil back.
Yeah, because it's tricky. The early season splits is actually a thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
actually, history is not on your side. If you even go 0-2 to start the season, the odds of you even so much as making the playoffs are slim to none. And you're just talking a 2-game sample size. So let's say they go back to back. They go at Kansas City and at Green Bay, let's just say, to start the season. Let's say they drop both of those. You could argue, just looking at the averages over a 40 to 50 year sample size, that the season is over and there's nothing really
Yeah.
worth playing for at that point, just for the sheer fact they went 0-2. So to that end, it makes perfect sense what you're laying out there, Phil, to maybe have it be a little bit more home friendly, maybe front load it with the Browns or the Giants or some of those more winnable things. Buy yourself some time, get some of these guys that are injured, like McNeil, closer to being ready to return. That makes a whole lot of sense. On the other hand, you have the 2024 road season. And remember, they played a grand total of 3 games on outdoor fields a season ago. They have
Yeah.
7 such games this season. We know this is not a team that is necessarily built to go outside in the elements, in the cold, and play winning football. Is it something they've done the last couple of years with a little bit more regularity? Yes, it is. But is that something that we as Lions fans should be banking on as a realistic possibility that this team is going to go out and play a backloaded road schedule where the chances of them playing outside in the cold in some of these northern or northeastern climates, that's kind of a tough proposition to be able to come to terms with.
It could be, but I think getting a guy like Tate Ratledge on that offensive line to go along with some of the other guys, I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to be able to run on teams. It's truly the Jared Goff equation when we go onto the road. Late in cold weather, what Jared Goff are we going to get? If we are going to have success or not. So I think there's no doubt in my mind we can run the ball, but we'll see with that. But yeah, I mean that is a good point. The Rams are going to be the one indoor team amongst all those teams, that are outside of the division. So that is going to be something. And then if you're looking at like road games in December, let's say you got the two cold NFC North teams with the Bears and Packers, and then you've also got the Ravens or the Bengals in there. I mean, that's it's going to be very, very cold games that you got to deal with. So,
You remember the 2013 Eagles game back when it was
yeah, the snow
played
game.
in December in the snow and the Lions were up like
Yeah,
21-0 for the first three quarters and then the wheels just fell off the last few minutes of the game and you're like, wait a minute, how in the hell did we lose that game?
that was like the Brian Westbrook looking
Yeah.
like out there. They had Team Sweden jerseys or something like that out there.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Ah, flashbacks. Gotta love them. But so we will see what happens with this schedule. It's going to be again unveiled this coming Wednesday night in prime time. So on our next episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast, we will know what the schedule is going to be, and we will start to chip away at it little by little as we go into next week, and also as we move through the rest of the offseason. Okay, so in preparation for the NFL schedule, Phil, we have some odds as it
Yeah.
pertains to the 2025 NFL season. Phil, what is your agency, if you will, of choice?
Agency.
Yeah,
Oh,
or
oh, 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 oh.
betting firm, or whomever. What's your guy of choice?
We know him as Downriver Dave. It's a bookie. No,
Is
I'm joking.
Downriver Dave ever wrong?
No, so I got my odds off of FanDuel for
Okay.
what I've got. So that's where I
Okay.
got mine from. Yeah.
So fill us in, Phil. You've got fill me in, Phil. Tell me what you got.
New
So,
segment called Fill the Infill.
fill
No.
me in, Phil.
Okay, so let's start here. I think this is gonna be the one of most importance. NFC North. I think last year, without question, it was the most competitive division in football. I
Absolutely.
know the Bears and Packers kind of tapered off there towards the end, but you saw the Lions and Vikings fight it out to the very last week of the regular season. Lions won that, of course. So here we go. This is as of today, when we're recording this, Mother's Day, May 11th, around 8:30 at night. The NFC North odds. So your Detroit Lions are still the odds-on favorites to win the NFC North, according to FanDuel. They are at plus 115. So um, that is not, the most overwhelming favorite in the NFL. There are other divisions where there is a clear runaway. The Packers, the Green Bay Packers, are the team with the second lowest odds after the Detroit Lions. So again, the Lions were at plus 115. The Packers were at plus 280. Following that up, the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are the third lowest at plus 450. And that would leave the Chicago Bears in fourth place with plus 490 odds to win the division. Now, it is worth noting this. I think there's been a lot of buzz around Chicago and this team and their offseason moves. Yes, FanDuel currently has them slotted in as the highest odds to win the division.
And for
But they are
comparison's
also,
sake, ESPN Bet follows suit with that exactly. Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota,
yeah,
Chicago in that order.
but Chicago at plus 490 is the lowest odds of any team finishing fourth place in their respective division. So that means, the way I interpret it, they have a better shot than a lot of teams that are projected to finish third or second in their own division. And I think the odds makers are saying this NFC North, is really kind of up for grabs. Yes, the Lions are the favorite. We're going to go ahead and give them the early advantage. But we're not going to go ahead and discount the Vikings or Bears. Better than plus or worse than plus 500 in there. To me, the really interesting thing about it is that the Packers are the one that is in second place and not the Minnesota Vikings. And then there is a little bit of that discrepancy between plus 450 for the Vikings and plus 280 for the Packers.
I think a lot of that speaks to the uncertainty at quarterback for Minnesota,
J.J.
though.
McCarthy.
And let's be honest, none of us predicted what Sam Darnold was able to give him a year ago. I think you and I, when we went through and predicted what everybody was going to do record-wise, I think you and I only saw maybe 4 wins, 5 wins for Minnesota over the entirety of their schedule, and it came down to the final night of the season for the Lions to hold them off for the division title. So we really don't know what J.J. McCarthy is as an NFL quarterback. So I think that does speak to a lot of the uncertainty to maybe juice Minnesota's odds a little bit.
Yeah. So that is an interesting one, but certainly, we'll see, because plus 450 and plus 490, very close. I could see a scenario where the schedule gets released, and if they feel it's more favorable for the Bears, that those two teams get flipped. Maybe those two odds get flipped as well.
Yeah.
And they're going to have Chicago in third, because that is very, very close.
And that's part of why I wanted to do this now. I mean, you're 100% right. That's kind of why I wanted to do this now, just to see how it changes between now and then. Because, again, I know it's cliche and it's overused and da-da-da-da-da, but it really is more about when you play teams as opposed to just strictly who's on your schedule.
All right, so we'll get into our next one here. Got a couple of others to get your way. So we have some Lions that are up for to be favorites at both offensive and defensive player of the year. We'll go there. So offensive player of the year, Saquon Barkley is still the odds-on favorite. Runaway for offensive player of the year. He is at plus 550. They have Jahmyr Gibbs as the 4th highest odds at plus 1,200. So Jahmyr Gibbs in that discussion. He had a breakout season last year from a statistical standpoint. Yes, he does split some of the workload, of course, with David Montgomery, but he had games where he was the clear star. So I think they think that's going to continue. But again, he's going to get some of those touchdowns, I think, taken away via David Montgomery, but not bad there. On the defensive side, Micah Parsons is the early odds-on favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. He is at plus 650 odds. Myles Garrett of Cleveland is second. I didn't write down what his odds were. But your Aiden Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions, third at plus 900. So I think they are giving him a lot of credit to where his stats and his sacks and his effort and how he looks early on last season, that even an injured Hutch, we're assuming he's going to be full ready to go, is in third at Defensive Player of the Year, plus 900. That's pretty favorable. They must like where he is at. All right. We'll get a couple more in here. So we talked on the NFC North. Well, how about the NFC as a whole? So this would be a bet where you would pick a team to win the conference outright. So they would be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. No surprise that the Philadelphia Eagles are the top team against it's all in FanDuel. The Eagles are the top team at plus 320. Your Detroit Lions are the number 2 favorite odds at plus 480. And then to me, it was a little interesting where they went, because I think there could be an argument made for the Commanders. I think there could be an argument made for maybe the Packers, the Vikings, or maybe even the Bears, one of these teams in division. But they went out west with the Los Angeles Rams, third at plus 850. So they must think that they're going to get a lot of wins in division and have, a bye potentially, or maybe a good chance of being the number 1 seed. But again, the Lions, second best odds in the NFC North to win that at plus 480. And two final ones I'll give you before I'll kick it back to you here, Vince. Coach of the year. Coach of the year. So traditionally, coach of the year is handed out to, either a first year or a second year head coach who gets the ship turned around, gets his team into the playoffs, usually wins the division. I think Dan Campbell has been in the running as a contender really the last couple of years. He has not won it, of course. But right now, the odds on favorite, according to FanDuel, to be the NFL Coach of the Year, your former offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, at plus 650. Aaron Glenn checks in at sixth place at plus 1,400. And if you're like, you know what, I like where the Lions are at, and I like where Dan Campbell is at, you can bet him for the 11th best odds at plus 2,200.
The only issue with that is that at this point, the Lions have more or less established themselves as far as being winners.
No.
If anything, if he underperforms, that's more of a dark mark on him as opposed to if he achieves what is expected or if he overachieves. So I think his opportunity to win Coach of the Year just for turning around the franchise, I think that ship has unfortunately sailed because, like you said, Phil, it is usually for first, second, maybe third year head coaches with these respective teams.
And I'll be honest, I think if he would have won it, he would have won it last year with how decimated that defense was. So that's pretty interesting. And then finally, MVP. So the odds-on favorite to win the MVP is not Patrick Mahomes. The odds-on favorite to win the MVP would be Lamar Jackson. He is at plus 500. There's a bunch of guys in there: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley. Jared Goff is the 10th odds-on favorite at plus 3,000. So Lions don't have any rookies in the Rookie of the Year races that I could see of note within the top 10. But you could get Jared Goff MVP odds for 10th best at plus 3,000 if you think he is absolutely going to light the world on fire and take home that award this year. I don't think it happens.
It's just like so hard to foresee that happening this year because Goff in more games than not played so unbelievably flawlessly that it's just so hard to anticipate or expect something similar happening this year with the schedule appearing to be the way it is.
I think you would be more likely to, I don't know where he was in there. He was clearly not in the top 10, probably top 20, laying odds on what Jahmyr Gibbs would be. And you just hope that he has like a Saquon kind of season. As rare those do happen. But yeah, anyway, so those some of the categories that I found some odds on. To me, I think still the most interesting one is how they, kind of projected the NFC North. And then, of course, the Bears, also, yes, finishing fourth place, but according to their odds, having Ben Johnson as the favorite for Coach of the Year.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit. This is using ESPN Bet's platform here. So now, again, not knowing what the schedule is going to look like, we'll take a closer look at our anticipated win total for the upcoming season. So let's look at the NFC North. The over-under for your Detroit Football Lions. Over-under 10.5, juice to the under. So that's a substantial anticipated step back from the 15-2 from a year ago. Not a great big surprise, but over-under 10.5, juice to the under. Next up, the Green Bay Packers. Over-under 9.5, juice to the over, which speaks to it being a very, very close race at the top of the NFC North. Minnesota Vikings, over-under 8.5, juice to the over.
Yeah.
Continuing on with our pattern. And the Chicago Bears, over-under 8.5, juice to the under. So what I'm interpreting here, Phil, is this is very much a division that top to bottom will be nowhere close to being decided anytime before Christmas. If what ESPN bet is indicating actually turns out to be the case, because based on that, there's a very real chance that top to bottom is separated by about 3 games. Your thoughts?
I little surprised at the Vikings and Bears. I mean, I guess based on where the NFC North odds were, that it was at 8.5, and that's kind of where they were at. I kind of like both teams getting the over. You know, if you're going to ask me where to bet on that, Lions at 10.5. That road schedule is daunting, right? I think we looked at it. I think this could be a better team than what we had last year. I just don't know if the wins are there based on how this is built out. So, um, yeah, maybe I kind of see where the juice would be under. Maybe getting 10 wins, you know, and trying to hold on to win the division, you know. I think this could be a situation too. We'll have to see where the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears, where their non-conference or non-division schedules lay out too, but where we kind of all beat up on each other in this division. Maybe it is still the best division in football, but you have who wins the division at 10 wins, who's in second place at 9 wins, 8 wins, or 8-7, or something like that, you know, where all these teams are going to be pretty respectable, but you just don't have that team getting 14, 15 wins, you know, like you had a season ago. So very, very interesting stuff there.
And it's, of course, an anomaly to go out there and win 15 games like the Lions did just a season ago. It's only been done just a handful of times in the history of the NFL regular season that a team goes out there and wins 15 games. That's not something that's heavily anticipated or expected. However, it kind of calls into question, okay, so what is the notion of the best division in football? You look at it from a year ago. You have the Lions that went 6-0 against divisional opponents, which means that the other 3 teams did not beat the division winner even one time. You have all 3 teams that made the playoffs ace out in the first game that they played in the playoffs. So it makes you wonder, is it a case of it being the best division in football, or is it just simply a matter of both the Lions and Packers and Vikings and Bears just being so close together from a talent standpoint, from a performance standpoint, that by itself kind of cancels everything out?
And make no mistake about it, all 4 of our teams in division, maybe with the exception of the Bears, absolutely feasted on the AFC South last year. Having that as that division that we played, I don't remember what the overall win-loss record was, but if the NFC South got a game or two, I would be shocked, you know, unless it was against the Bears.
And that's going to be a little bit tougher this year also because they don't have the AFC South on the schedule this year. The NFC North will be playing against the AFC North, which, if everything goes the way it's gone in recent history, isn't necessarily a cakewalk. And that additional game they added a few years back that's against another AFC team where you either everybody plays them at home or goes on the road. This year, the NFC North will play the singular crossover road game against the AFC West, meaning that the Lions will play at the Chiefs, the Vikings will play at the Broncos, the Packers will play at the Chargers, and the Bears will play at the Raiders. None of those are particularly gimme games either, except maybe the Packers over the Raiders. It's going to be a grab your popcorn and check it out kind of evening coming up on Wednesday, Phil.
It will be. It will be. You know, and again, it's a lot of conjecture. Like I said, it probably won't happen, but let's say the New York Giants all of a sudden get it turned around. Let's say the Cincinnati Bengals, for some reason, have no defense to speak of and just completely crap the bed. I mean, who knows? But you look at the home and the away schedule, and it's like a night and day difference, you know. So interesting stuff.
Interesting stuff indeed. So that's all she wrote on this episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all that apply and celebrate. Phil and I are going to be watching intently the NFL schedule reveal coming up this Wednesday. And of course, we will have our hard-hitting analysis of the schedule coming up on our next episode of Kneecaps for Breakfast. For Phil Byrne across the way, Vince Progar saying good morning, go Lions, forward down the field, over and out.